our fans to understand that playing 82 games in the 80s and 90s is not the same as playing 82 games in the 2020s.
When LeBron passes up Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in points, and he will this year, will that make him the greatest player ever? Okay.
LeBron James recently shared his thoughts on a podcast, pointing out how today's game is different from the past. On the surface, it sounded fair and reasonable, but those comments didn't sit the same way with the old school legends. They heard something deeper. And Shaquille O'Neal, a three-time champion alongside Kobe Bryant, seemed to reach his limit. What went down in the tunnel after the Lakers versus Knicks game wasn't exactly friendly. Now I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below. Do you think LeBron's take on the modern game was actually disrespectful to Michael Jordan's era? Or is Shaq blowing things out of proportion over something misunderstood? Be real with your answer. Let's rewind for a second, because the context is important and it's been getting lost in all the noise.
You'll be so pissed off about, at some point, like you said, it'd be a conversation that'd be brought up again, and hopefully we can kind of figure it out and get to a better place about it, because the game is different. Like, I want people to understand, and our fans to understand, that playing 82 games in the 80s and 90s is not the same as playing 82 games in the 2020s. It's just not. The way we play, the level of pace, the level of the speed that we're playing at, it's a different game now. It's a totally different game. And, it's a lot of soft tissue injuries that's happened now because of it. I hope we can get a handle on that as well, because that's big in our game.
The Lakers fell to the Knicks 112-100. It wasn't a shocking loss or a total meltdown. Just another regular season game that normally gets brushed off and forgotten by the next day. But this night felt different. There was more happening beneath the surface than what the scoreboard showed. Because before tip-off, before the buzzer sounded, before anyone even broke down the loss the Lakers would rather avoid, LeBron James had been on a podcast. And some of his comments were already making waves, especially among those who hold on to the past and don't take kindly to what they see as rewriting history.
I think when I first came into the league, Reese, like, some of the biggest concerns of injuries was like, a high ankle sprain. You was afraid to step on somebody's ankle because there was 4 or 5 guys sitting in the paint. So, guys with athleticism, myself, Tracy McGrady, Vince Carter, to name a couple guys, sometimes you're afraid to take off into the lane because there was 4 or 5 guys sitting in the paint. And if you land on somebody's ankle, you get a high ankle sprain, you out 4 to 6 weeks. Now that's not really much of you don't really see that as much now because the game is so spread open. It's so much pace. But now you see the new high ankle sprain is the calf. Right. Hopefully we can get a handle on that from a medical standpoint. But it's just a game. I just want the fans to understand that the game is a little different. And, as NBA players, we definitely want to be out there.
The moment that really sparked everything was a clip of LeBron James talking about how the game has evolved. He explained that calf injuries today are almost like what high ankle sprains used to be. Serious issues influenced by the way the modern game is played. His point was rooted in sports science, highlighting how today's faster, more open, pace and space style puts different stress on players' bodies, especially certain muscle groups. On the surface, it came across as a straightforward analytical take, the kind of insight you'd expect from a sports scientist or team trainer studying how basketball has physically changed over the years.
Hold on. You said LeBron James the greatest player ever?
Ever.
What about Michael and Kobe? So you just gonna pass Kobe up like that?
I'm gonna pass Kobe up. I'm gonna look at Michael. I'm gonna look at the.
I knew it. Patron America.
Yo.
Patron America.
Kobe Bryant couldn't fill, or Michael Jordan fill LeBron's shoes. The impact that he's had with different teammates, different organizations.
Would you be mad at me if I just walked up?
But that's not how Shaquille O'Neal interpreted it. And he wasn't alone. Many players from earlier eras took it the same way. To them, it sounded like an attempt to redefine toughness, whether intentional or not. It came across as suggesting that today's game is more demanding in ways the past wasn't. And for those who played through hand checking, absorbed hard contact in the paint without the protection of modern flagrant foul rules, and built careers in a league that embraced physicality, That idea didn't sit right. It felt like a subtle dismissal of everything they endured. So when LeBron James walked through the tunnel after the loss to the Knicks, Shaq was already there. According to reports from fans and media on site, Shaq stepped directly into LeBron's path. This wasn't a casual greeting or a quick exchange. It was a deliberate move, setting the tone before a single word was spoken. When you picture Shaq, standing 7'1", around 300 pounds, blocking someone's way in a tunnel, there's no confusion about the message. That's someone who has something to say and plans to say it on his own terms.
Hold on. You said LeBron James the greatest player ever?
Ever.
What about Michael and Kobe? So you just gonna pass Kobe up like that?
I'm gonna pass Kobe up. I'm gonna look at Michael. Kobe Bryant couldn't fill, or Michael Jordan fill LeBron's shoes. The impact that he's had with different teammates, different organizations.
Would you be mad at me if I just walked off the show?
You can't leave.
Are you aware that this man has tripled and doubled Michael Jordan in assists?
I'm gonna say one thing to you, Max. I don't know the numbers like you do. Michael Jordan is what in the finals? 6 and what?
Oh.
And what is LeBron in the finals? That's all I gotta say.
What exactly was said in that tunnel is still being reconstructed from different eyewitness accounts. But the bigger point Shaquille O'Neal has been making for years suddenly felt more intense in that moment. And that argument goes beyond just one podcast comment or one loss to Knicks. It taps into something deeper. Shaq's core belief is simple. Greatness in basketball used to carry a different edge. It wasn't only about stats like points, assists, or even championships. It was about mental dominance. It was about fear. Michael Jordan didn't just defeat teams. He made them believe they had already lost. Before the game started, during every possession, and even after the final buzzer, opponents felt it. Kobe Bryant had that same presence. The intensity, the mindset, the relentless pressure. He never allowed opponents to feel at ease, not even for a moment. These weren't just competitive traits. They were psychological weapons. They shaped the flow of the game itself, because opponents were constantly dealing with the fear those players created, even when they didn't have the ball.
Is he playing? I didn't know he was playing. No, I just think that, we're playing different eras. He's an unbelievable player. Yeah, he's one of the best players in the world, if not the best player in the world. I know it's a natural tendency to compare eras to eras, and it's going to continue to happen. I'm a fan of his. I love watching him play, but it's as you can see, our league is starting to expand on very talented players, and I think he's made his mark. He will continue to do so over a period of time. But when you start the comparisons, I think it is what it is.
Shaquille O'Neal's exact words in that tunnel are still being pieced together from different accounts. But the bigger message he's been pushing for years suddenly felt more urgent in that moment. Because this debate goes far beyond one podcast comment or one regular season loss. At the heart of Shaq's argument is this: greatness used to look different. It wasn't just about stats, rings, or accolades. It was about psychological control. It was about making opponents feel defeated before the game even began. Michael Jordan didn't just win. He imposed fear. Teams knew what was coming, and there was nothing they could do about it. Kobe Bryant carried that same mentality: relentless intensity, total focus, and a refusal to let anyone feel comfortable for even a second. Those traits weren't just competitive. They were mental weapons. And according to Shaq, that's where LeBron James falls short. Despite his physical dominance and unmatched numbers, Shaq believes LeBron has never created that same fear in opponents. You don't hear stories of players losing sleep before facing LeBron the way they did with Jordan. You don't see that same level of emotional collapse from opponents. To Shaq, that difference isn't minor. It's everything. It separates a great player from the greatest. Then there's a finals record. Jordan went 6 for 6 appearances, 6 championships, 6 finals MVPs. Perfect. No losses when it mattered most. That level of perfection is hard to argue against. LeBron, on the other hand, has reached the finals more than almost anyone, which is incredible in itself. But he's also lost on that stage. And for Shaq, those losses aren't just numbers. They reveal what happens under maximum pressure. LeBron supporters push back with strong argument: longevity. His ability to dominate across 2 decades, adapt to different teams, and stay elite longer than anyone ever has. That's a different kind of greatness. And that's fair. But Shaq's counter is simple. Lasting longer isn't the same as dominating harder. In his eyes, comparing accumulation to peak dominance is a flawed argument, and even disrespectful to players who ruled their era at the highest level. Because if playing longer becomes a standard, then records can be broken simply through time, not necessarily superiority. There's also LeBron's current situation. With Luka Doncic now leading the team's future direction, the Lakers are no longer centered entirely around LeBron. At this stage of his career, his role has naturally shifted. That's expected. But it also changes how people view his place in the GOAT debate. Compare that to Shaq's own run. 3 straight championships as a clear centerpiece, with Kobe as a supporting force. There was never any doubt about who led that team. Then there's another detail that's raised eyebrows: the jersey patches. This season, LeBron has worn patches celebrating statistical milestones, with more reportedly on the way. That's something no previous legend did. Not Jordan, not Kareem, not Wilt, not Bill Russell. They set records, acknowledged them, and moved on. To players from earlier eras, those patches symbolize something bigger: managing legacy in real time. And for someone like Shaq, who comes from a culture of letting performance speak for itself, that approach feels like unnecessary self-promotion. But the real issue Shaq is pushing against goes beyond LeBron. It's about how the league itself has changed. Today's NBA values branding, social media presence, and global influence more than ever. A player can have massive followers, endorsements, documentaries, and still not carry that same on-court intimidation that defined past legends. Shaq isn't dismissing influence. He's saying it shouldn't count in a debate about basketball greatness. And that tunnel moment made everything real. Because when 2 all-time players confront each other face-to-face, away from cameras, without scripts or PR filters, that's the old-school way of settling things. Shaq standing there wasn't for show. It was personal. It was direct. It was a statement. What happens next matters. Moments like this shape how history is written. They influence documentaries, narratives, and how future generations understand this era. If voices like Shaq's gain momentum, if more former players agree that today's game disrespects the past, that could impact how LeBron's legacy is remembered beyond just numbers. Because legacy isn't just built on stats. It's built on respect. And respect, especially from those who came before, isn't given. It's earned. Shaq respected LeBron for years. He acknowledged his greatness. But now, he's publicly drawing a line. And that means something. This wasn't media hype. It was a generational verdict, delivered face-to-face, with no cameras and no filters. So now the question is yours. Was Shaq right to call it out? Or is LeBron being unfairly judged? Drop your take below.